is live. Instagram is live. Thank you for those listening on the podcast. Today is Wednesday. My favorite day of the week. It is Geri on Ice. It's good to see you all. This is the PT on Ice Daily Show brought to you by the Institute of Clinical Excellence. My name is Dustin Jones. I'm one of two lead faculty members within the older adult division. The other is the wonderful Christina Previtt. I want to encourage you all, before we dive into today's topic, to check out today's email, the HDH email, Hump Day Hustle email, that Jeff Moore sent out earlier this morning at 8:30 Eastern Standard Time. Good morning, Jeff. The first link on there is an article that Choose PT published that was created by a student physical therapist named Kylie Roberts. She's at Sacred Heart University. She lost her grandmother during this pandemic and took that pain and that sorrow and that mourning and turned that into motivation to hopefully impact others for good. So it's about how to maintain health and fitness for older adults despite this pandemic. Some of the MOA faculty helped out with that. Alex Germano and Julie Brower published some awesome videos that go along with that. But that is in that email. So make sure you check that. If you're not on that list, just go to ptonice.com and then look for Hump Day Hustle. It's a public-facing article that'd be great to share with your public networks, but then also the clinic pages as well. All right, that's out of the way. Why every PT is a Geri PT, even you. Yes, you, Lindsay Huey, who is working at Drive PT. You are a Geri PT. Let me explain. So there was a question in the Geros community Facebook group. This is probably about a week ago. Christy Weber posted this. I'm going to read this verbatim. She's trying to create basically a curriculum for a lot of their new grads in the company that she works for and to better equip them to serve older adults. She says, what's something you wish you knew sooner as a new grad when you started working with older adults? What's something you wish you knew sooner as a new grad when you started working with older adults? For many of you all, you immediately think of probably all the mistakes that you made, all the cases that you just they were really challenging and difficult, and probably a lot of the lessons learned from that as well. And so I think it forces a little reflection. But my initial reaction, and it was cool because Christina Previtt responded with the same thoughts, is that we don't want to let our assumptions dictate our courses of care with older adults. We want to actually let our assessments inform what we do with individuals and not necessarily our assumptions. And that's where that whole hashtag old not weak really comes from. We don't want to assume because someone has a particular birth date that they are weak, that they are slow, that they are fragile, and they can't handle properly dosed or high intensity exercise. Hashtag old not weak. We want our assumptions or our assessments to really inform our courses of care, not necessarily our assumptions. And I love that. I still think that is a good answer, and I want everyone here to really acknowledge that and embrace that. However, the further away I got from that conversation, the less that really satisfied me. I started to think about that question at random points throughout this past week, just to think of the gravity of that situation. If I had the opportunity to influence new grads, what would I really want them to know on a deep kind of visceral level that's going to impact them throughout the rest of their entire career, regardless of where they end up? And that's the thing that I'm starting to see now, is that I mainly speak to geriatric clinicians, people that are working in SNFs, that are working in home health, and some people in the outpatient setting. But my crowd, the people that follow me or that followed Senior Rehab Project or Geros Health, have been largely in that camp where we typically think about folks that are geriatric specialists. However, when you say new grad, you're talking about the whole profession. What would I want them to know? And the more I thought about that, the more confident I am in saying that every single PT or PTA or OT or CODA is a Geri clinician. Every PT is a Geri PT. How can I say this? I can say this with confidence because from my personal experience, I'm starting to really value kind of my windy road through this profession. I was an athletic trainer initially, some amazing experience there working with collegiate athletes at a Division II school. Love that. Went to PT school. and then was working in outpatient orthopedics, worked with a lot of runners, kind of the typical outpatient caseload. And then I went to a skilled nursing facility, completely different caseload as you can imagine. Found myself in home health as well. Worked a lot of time in different assisted living facilities, different kind of senior housing setups. And so I've spent a lot of time with a lot of different types of people, but most of my time have been spent with individuals that are considered older adults. And I think the big thing that I have noticed is as I've spent more time with these individuals, they have spent so many years and decades in the healthcare system, in the medical world. I mean, when you're working with someone in their 80s and 90s, you may be the 10th, 11th, 12th clinician or physical therapist that they have worked with. Let that sink in, probably more than that. Think about all the physician visits they've had, all those touch points within the healthcare system. And what you start to observe is that you're working with this individual, but that individual is actually a culmination of several interactions. And a lot of those interactions influence the person that is in front of you. And so what often can happen is that I'm working with the 80-year-old individual. However, they may have had physical therapy maybe 30 years ago when they were 50. In many instances, the physical therapist that worked with that 50-year-old is having a greater influence on the care now when I'm working with that 80-year-old. That previous physical therapist, with whatever they did, whatever they said, has greatly influenced that 80-year-old sitting in front of me, whether it's what they end up doing in terms of behaviors or what they end up not doing or beliefs that they have, whether good or bad. And when you really acknowledge the gravity of that situation and the tension and difficulty when you are confronting a lot of beliefs and actions, you really start to realize, wow, that outpatient clinician that was treating that 50-year-old, they were really treating a future 80-year-old. And that is really difficult to think about, especially if there's a difficult situation where you are kind of contradicting in terms of your beliefs versus that previous clinician. And that's difficult to not acknowledge, I feel, that sometimes a previous clinician, a previous PT is having more of an influence in your current patients' lives than you are, based on some of those interactions. And so with that being said, for you all that may not consider yourself a Geri PT, even if you're in pediatrics, I don't care what setting you're in, you are working with the 18-year-old female that is recovering from ACL surgery. Yeah, you're probably working with the 30-some-year-old that's having some back pain on the job. I get it. Yeah, that's who you're working with. But that person is likely going to be a future 80-year-old. And the interactions that you have, the words that you use, how you influence that person is going to influence their future selves. It's also going to influence my course of care. When I say my, you could just throw in the home health PT or someone that's working with that older adult down the road. Regardless of setting or specialty, you are either treating an older adult or you're treating a future older adult, and you are influencing individuals on a very deep level. So therefore, my friend, you are a Geri PT. I know you don't like to hear that. I know for some of you all, that's kind of the bottom rung on the ladder. You don't like working with older adults, or that word geriatrics just sounds absolutely terrible. But I'm sorry, you got to embrace it. Regardless of the setting you're in and who you're working with, you are influencing either an older adult or a future older adult. You need to embrace that. But whenever I say hashtag Geri PT, many of you all, and this is what I've learned with some Instagram conversations when I was trying to get some more perspective from you all, is that when you see Geri PT, you think specialist, you think specialization, you think GCS or being certified, board certified in that specialty. And I want to encourage you all that to be a Geri PT is not about a designation. It's not about really niching down and being a particular specialist. Being a Geri PT is more about a mindset. It is more about a mindset. And I think our academy, the Academy of Geriatric Physical Therapy, is doing a great job of this, and even with their mission statement. I'm going to read this verbatim. We are, AGPT on their website, we are committed to building a community that advances the profession of physical therapy to optimize the experience of aging. The Academy of Geriatric Physical Therapy, their whole goal is to support our profession in optimizing the experience of aging. And when you embrace that mindset that you are optimizing the experience of aging, you are doing that with the 18-year-old. You're doing that with the 34-year-old. You're doing that with the 50-year-old, regardless of the setting that you're in. You don't have to have a caseload of patients that are over 80 years old to optimize the experience of aging. We're all doing that on a day-to-day basis. You are a Geri PT. You are influencing someone now, but then also their future selves in some way, shape, or form. I want you to embrace that. So practically speaking, let's talk about some different scenarios where it could be helpful, where it could be harmful, and just to kind of give you all some perspective that may not necessarily be working with older adults per se, but you're typically working with future older adults. A common scenario that we run in, a lot of the clinicians mainly working with older adults, is that let's say we are trying to implement high intensity exercise training, that we are trying to get them to perform full range of motion squats, for example. That patient may have had some type of interaction with a clinician, whether PT or physician, honestly, or whatever healthcare provider, that told them, if you bend your knees past 90 degrees, if you squat below parallel, you may develop arthritis. Bone on bone. It could get bad. So you need to make sure you only bend your knees to that 90 degrees, and then you'll be safe and you'll be good to go for the rest of your life. What if someone said that? And I think a lot of us could raise our hands on how many patients that we've had that have kind of really taken that to their heart and implemented on that terrible advice. That is a very difficult situation that you have to try and overcome. That clinician that said that maybe 30, 40 years ago likely did not perceive the dramatic impact of that situation. So for you all that are working with future older adults, your words matter tremendously. Your interventions matter tremendously. Just think of some of the damage that can be done when you have a particular belief that is not helpful stretched out over decades and decades and decades. Jeff Musgrave's watching right now on Instagram. A great example of this is we have someone at Stronger Life where they were told by an orthopedic surgeon they had a minor meniscus tear, and that surgeon said to never bend their knee past 90 degrees. They're asymptomatic. They're doing just fine. But that surgeon said, nope, don't bend past 90 degrees. This woman is 53 years old, an empty nester, new phase of life, a lot in front of her, and she's scared to death that she's going to have to get a knee replacement in 4 or 5 years, and she's not going to bend her knee. Jeff Musgrave gave her the permission to load up her knee and then also move through that full range of motion to where now she's symmetrical left to right, and she's going to about 120, 130 degrees of knee flexion, and she's loading it up in a pretty significant manner. That just small interaction of Jeff giving that individual hope, giving them permission to move, has likely changed the trajectory of that person's life. And I'm not overstating that one bit. Think of the decades and decades of fear, of kinesiophobia, of associated sedentary behaviors, and the increased risk of developing some type of chronic condition and further pain state, or having that elevated pain state. Think of what that would result in. And Jeff literally prevented that with one sentence. Yeah, you can bend that. That's fine. That's all he said. But then gradually exposed her to that new range of motion, load her up, and she's doing awesome now. That's one example. The other example, and what I really want you all to think about for you all treating future older adults, is that if you implement kind of that fitness forward mindset into some of your patients early on, you are changing their lives. Most of the people that are like me, that are maybe in the home health setting or skilled nursing facility setting, some of these kind of post-acute settings, so much could have been prevented if someone was brutally strong and brutally fit, to be honest. So much could be prevented. If you are working with that future older adult and you are successful in that fitness forward approach where they carry that on beyond your course of care, you have done them a tremendous favor and absolutely changed their life in a dramatic way. And I want you to embrace that. We know the stats. Jeff is sharing a post probably every week about playing offense, very significant influence that we can have with our lifestyle behaviors. But from someone that has seen the tangible impact of someone not having the strength, the capacity, the ability to do the things they want to do, to be able to live in their home and participate in the community the way they want to participate, that is a terrible situation. It goes beyond a medical diagnosis. It goes beyond some of the stats that we see, but you see what that impact is. You can prevent that. You can help people live a long, healthy, active, engaging life for a very significant period of time if you really get them to embrace that fitness forward approach. So we need to focus on that. I'm sorry, y'all. I'm getting kind of fired up here, but I think it's very important. So just to wrap up, you're a Geri PT. I don't care what setting you're in. You're either treating older adults or you're treating future older adults. You have an influence on these individuals. Yes, take care of their symptoms, reduce their pain, whatever reason that they came to you for. But that 18-year-old, that 34-year-old, that 50-year-old, you need to have that future older adult perspective. What can you do to influence that individual that is going to have a dramatic impact on them even up to the end of their lives? You are going to serve them in an amazing way. You, my friend, are a Geri PT. Embrace it. Own it. It's fun too. It's sexy. Geri is sexy. Some of y'all don't realize that yet, but trust me, it is. All right, that's all I got for you. Let me know your thoughts. Whether you're on Instagram, whether you're on Facebook, or even on the podcast, hop on social media. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Are you going to push back? Are you not a Geri PT? Let's have a conversation. I'm willing to debate a little bit here, but I'd love to hear your thoughts on your perspective of this, on either treating older adults or future older adults. Before we go, I do want to mention our next cohort of Modern Management of the Older Adult Essential Foundations. That's our online introductory course. Next cohort, January 6th. We're already at half capacity. It's December 16th. That bad boy is getting sold out. As soon as Christmas gets by, people are going to start taking those seats. And I say that just with past predicts the future, because that's what happens every January. So if you want to get on that cohort, go to ptonice.com and you can find it there. Otherwise, I appreciate y'all hanging out, and I will see y'all in a couple weeks. Have a lovely, lovely rest of your day. See y'all.
Hey, thanks for tuning in to the PT on Ice Daily Show. If you enjoyed this content, head on over to iTunes and leave us a review. And be sure to check us out on Facebook and Instagram at the Institute of Clinical Excellence. If you're interested in getting plugged into more ICE content on a weekly basis while earning CEUs from home, check out our virtual ICE online mentorship program at ptonice.com. While you're there, sign up for our Hump Day Hustling newsletter for a free email every Wednesday morning with our top 5 research articles and social media posts that we think are worth reading. Head over to ptonice.com and scroll to the bottom of the page to sign up.